Welcome back to Capitol Tonight, a statewide look at politics. I'm Loretta Beniti. We just heard from the leader of the Senate on how budget negotiations are progressing. Just before I talked with Senator Berger, I also talked with Speaker Tim Moore. I asked many of the same questions to see his take on the progress and priorities as the session nears its end. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. So it's just about Labor Day. Did you ever think when we gavelled in January that we would still be here today?
No, I thought we would have been long gone by now, but it's just proven that with this budget this session, there's been a lot to deal with and a lot of issues that we've needed to address.
So since we're talking about the fact that we're still here in September, there always seems to be every year those constant murmurings of, does North Carolina need to have a full-time legislature? What are your thoughts on that?
I do believe that a part-time legislature is the best, but I will say scheduling pressures like we've had this year and really in some prior sessions have resulted in some difficulty to maintain that. All of us, unless folks are either independently wealthy or retired, which I'm neither of those, have other jobs, have families, and really being here in Raleigh can be very tough. So what we have at least tried to do, for example, when we know there's no pressing business to be dealt with as the budget negotiations occur, is to let those who are not involved directly in the budget negotiations go home and not have to be here for those occasions.
And you brought the budget up. That's the big reason that we're still here today. Now, we've been hearing that there's been steps being made towards an agreement, but I'll tell you, in the last day or two, as I've talked to some of the budget folks, some of the finance folks, the skepticism is palpable that maybe we won't make it by the end of this continuing resolution. What are your thoughts? I mean, is enough progress getting made right now?
We are on schedule to make it by the end of this continuing resolution. The way to explain the process would take longer than this segment even has, and probably is more than most folks really even want to know. But the way the process works, of course, is that the subcommittees report, then it goes to the full chairs, and then it eventually goes to myself and the President Pro Tem of the Senate. Right now, most of the committee work has been done, and everything is coming into the full chairs are dealing with it. So that should be happening here in the coming days, and it is my hope that by the first full week of September, that Senator Berger and I will be dealing with most of the issues still in controversy. And if you think about it, out of a $21.735, I believe is the number, $billion budget, it's going to come down to a handful of things. The House continues to believe that we need to fully fund education, that we should do something for state employees and teachers in terms of compensation increases, that we should also make sure that we take care of drivers' education, of the teaching assistants. Those have been priorities the House has set forth, and unfortunately the Senate has responded favorably, at least on the TA front right now, and I believe the other things will fall into place.
So you sound like we're probably past the point of these Senate subcommittee chairs, your area chairs, meeting at this. So for things like JPS and Health and Human Services, which is another huge area of the budget, you feel pretty confident with where the budget stands right now?
Right. The subcommittee chairs are meeting, as we are filming this, it's Wednesday. Mm-hmm. So the subcommittee chairs are meeting today, and I think just still one other subcommittee still has to make its report, and it'll probably report in by tomorrow. And so the full chairs are already dealing with some of the other areas where the subcommittee chairs have reported. So, the process is moving. You have also a lot of meetings going on in tandem as well.
Well, I was going to talk to you about, concurrent to these budget negotiations going on, we're hearing that there's discussions going on taxes, economic development, the bond package. Are all of these negotiations going on the same days that this budget stuff are coming out? Are we going to expect to see this stuff come out after the budget? Are we going to see a flurry of bills that everything will be agreed to at once?
I think you'll see a lot of things happen all at the same time. The conversations on economic development continue. Any kind of tax reform, tax relief, those conversations are occurring. There's talk about Medicaid reform, and there's also talk about the bonds. Those are, each of those bills represent different priorities from the two chambers. But yes, those conversations are happening, so it's not like we're all just here doing nothing. I mean, there's a lot of meetings going on. with groups trying to negotiate those finer points.
What is the House's appetite for tax reform right now? I mean, obviously the Senate is pushing this whole sales. We've heard time and again from the House. That's not something you're on board with right now. But are you looking at the idea of perhaps lowering personal income tax a certain amount?
I think we would like to find a way to lower personal income taxes. You know, over the last few years, we've lowered personal income taxes, corporate income tax, and numerous taxes across the board. And so we would like to continue doing more, but we want to make sure that we see how the current plans have been implemented, how they are working, and in any tax relief we do, make sure we take a very measured approach. But we continue to certainly support lower taxes and oppose any kind of tax increases on the House side.
So Medicaid reform, I think a betting man would have said you weren't going to have Medicaid reform this year, because for years we haven't had Medicaid reform when we've heard we're going to have it. The House it appears, has agreed to going with this hybrid model, as we like to call it. My understanding is that the issue of timing and oversight are still the issues that need to be negotiated. Are you still confident that you're close enough?
We're working there. The other issue has to do with what's called the carve-outs. Are there any types of health care that would not be swept up in this? I think that's going to be an issue that's going to require a good bit of debate, and is not yet resolved. But a lot of the other things have been resolved. The whole notion of going from what's called fee-for-service to capitation, you know, the House really is in the position, I think, of agreeing with the Senate on going to a capitated model. And then there's the provider-led entities, the managed care. Again, the hybrid allows both. How it work out, I'm not sure. We do have an appetite for Medicaid reform. I think you'll see the House, as far as passage of that, really be contingent to see what happens on some other bills that we're concerned about, economic development being one, the bond proposal, and then, of course, coming to an agreement on the budget. I think you'll see a lot of these things, you know, get the budget out of the way, get that done, the other things fall into place.
Well, not that we haven't discussed enough issues right there, but just finally, before I let you go, all of that are things we expect to see before session ends. What else do you want to make sure happens before session ends?
Well, we need to get a final resolution on the presidential primary issue and discuss if we're going to be moving primaries or not. That's another issue. I really want to see us make sure that we get certainty to the people about the state budget, that we fully take care of that. I believe the bonds are critical. We have infrastructure needs that, with the recession and years before, that we either were unwilling or unable to address, and we really want to do that. The work happening on highway funding, for example, is very good. You know, we have congestion all around the state, people trying to go to work and sitting in traffic, different parts. We need to deal with that. Education spending. You know, I have 2 children who are in the public schools, and want to see us have a great, continue to invest in a great education system in this state. And we need to do all we can to make sure that happens. Those things and economic development are key priorities for me, and I would say for the House. Those are the things I hear from my colleagues.
Okay, Speaker Moore, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for being here.
And that's all the time we have for tonight. We'll see you here tomorrow night at 7 o'clock for Capital Tonight. Have a great evening.